Here we are. I completely lost track of the days. I think we're Wednesday. I had to go and get milk for my coffee just now because I was like, I don't know what day of the week I'm at the moment. All the days are kind of merging into one. But tonight we have the lovely, and I'm pleased to say not in the gorilla costume, David Winston, photographer.
I did threaten you.
You did threaten me with the gorilla costume, which did quite frighten me, I have to be honest. But I was very pleased to hear that the gorilla costume is probably living in Venice, which is good. I don't mind. I can interview wildlife, but I know whatever his name is, David Attenborough. I wanted to say Johnny Morris. That's more my era. Do you remember Johnny Morris? Animal Magic.
Yeah.
Lovely. I loved him. So welcome, David. And you did Pure ART360 Edition 1. So you're back. You're a glutton for punishment. And you're back for a second go. And that's great because you told us all about your artwork and your own personal journey story in Edition 1. So tonight we're going to hear a bit more about your process and materials, which is great. I'm really looking forward to that because your process and materials are fascinating. Just before we start, just a bit of housekeeping. So anyone who's watching us on Facebook or YouTube, where we're live streaming, if you've got questions, please put them in the comments area. Please give us a like and a heart and a thumbs up so that Facebook knows that there's actually people watching, and we'll share it with more people. That'd be great. And if you want to come over to follow us over on Crowdcast and actually ask your questions live, you can go onto the website and register to be in the live audience, and we will send you an invite. Anyone who's in the live audience tonight, welcome. Lots of people I can see are there already. If you've got questions, and I know you're going to have loads of them, can you put them in the ask a question area at the bottom of the screen so that I can look at them? Statements are fine, but questions are preferable. And if you, any problems with the airlines, the doors are here and here. I think we're done. Get water. All housekeeping done. Tonight we have David with us, and David was born in LA. Correct me if I get any of this wrong, because I'm remembering this from last time.
So good.
Yeah, so far so good. Born in LA, but moved to the UK in about the 1970s?
Yeah, 1976.
1976. And you are, by trade, you work with musical instruments.
That's right.
Yeah, pianos.
My day job is a restorer of musical instruments.
But your passion...
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much split down the middle now between the photography and the musical instruments. And
you have a particular love of photography to do with Venice, because a lot of the imagery that we see from you is based around Venice. What I'm going to do quickly, just to give people a feel for your work, is I'm going to show them your page in the magazine, and I'm going to show them quickly your website. I think that'd be a good thing to do, and then you can start showing us the pieces actually in your studio there. So let's have a look at your page on the magazine. Here we go. So this is David's page, and there is one. I was just about to say, then there's not a single image of Venice there. Have I just said? You're fascinated with Venice, but you're also fascinated with the natural landscape as well. But yeah, there's David's page, and if you want to contact David and you want to buy any of his work, all of his contact details are there. As you can see, you've got his email, you've got his website, which I'm going to show you in a second, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can always DM anyone on Instagram. That's always the quickest way to get hold of everyone. So fabulous double page spread there. Still absolutely so overwhelmed by what Hildegard created this time for the magazine. And we've already had something like 2,000 views of the magazine. So that's absolutely fantastic. And I hope everyone's enjoying reading through the magazine and getting their, fix of art, because we've been deprived of that for quite some time. So that was the magazine. And now I'm going to share David's website so that you can see what he does. I love this image. We have this image on the website, don't we? It's completely blacked out image. You're wearing a Viennese mask in that.
A Venetian mask, yeah.
Yeah.
it's a doctor's plague mask. During the plague, the doctors wore these masks with very long noses, and they stuffed herbs inside the noses to try to filter out the plague germs. So
wow, we could all wear these now.
We could, yeah.
If only we'd known, we could have gone around in these. Is it Viennese?
Yeah,
Viennese? Venetian masks with our noses all stuffed with herbs to protect us. I think I would have looked amazing on Battle High Street doing that. So on your here, you've got your portfolio, so people can go and see your work here. And there's the Venice Multiplied series. So here, oh my goodness, some of these images are just stunning. Stunning work. So that's a San Marco in the moonlight. Absolutely amazing. So yeah, do take a look at David's website if you want to see more of his artwork. But tonight he's going to, I'm going to give the full screen over to David now. There we go. So you can see his full room with all his musical instruments there. Amazing. Musical instruments. So tonight David's going to talk us through the 3 different processes that he does: platinum, gum, bichromate, and cyanotype, and show us the materials he uses and the cameras he uses, and just generally talk us through those 3 processes. So which one are you going to start with, David?
Well, I'll just I'll start with the cyanotype, actually.
Okay. This is my moment of fear when he wanders off and never comes back.
Yeah, so cyanotype is actually a local scene, a camber, and it's a pinhole image. That's why it's so sort of diffuse. Done with and cyanotype is one of the easier processes to use, actually, and you get this lovely, beautiful color, this beautiful blue color that I really like, and I use it a lot, and also combine it with other processes. So that's this is a cyanotype, and it's a process that was invented in about 1840. It was originally designed originally used for just botanical prints, but now we've expanded our repertoire a lot. And this is actually printed. I use a lot of different papers. This is actually printed on vintage watercolor from the 50s.
Where on earth did you get vintage watercolor paper from the 50s?
I'm not going to tell you.
You're not going to reveal that secret because everyone will want to use it.
This is the Platinum Palladium process, which is I don't know if you can see, it's a sort of sepia tone.
Yes. And that is a lady dressed up.
It's taken during Carnivale in Venice.
So you've got the blue, which is the cyanotype, and then this one
is Platinum Palladium, and you get this lovely kind of luminosity, like in this section here. It's a lovely process to use.
And does it always have that sepia tone to it?
It does. So that's that. And this is a gum bichromate print using several different colors. Now, gum bichromate is a really painterly process. It's really interesting. It's very unpredictable. It's very difficult. But basically, you mix watercolor pigments with light-sensitive chemicals, and you brush them onto the watercolor paper. And you have to have separation negatives. You have to have a negative for the red values, the green values, and the blue values. And you do one layer at a time, and you have to build it up over many layers. If you look at the back of this, I've written on here how many. Let's see. You can just see I write notes how many layers. So that's about 10 layers before you get the final image. And you can ruin it at the very end by just getting it out of registration. It's very tricky because the paper changes dimension as you're working on it. naturally it would. You know, you're putting it in water and different humidity, and it's very, very tricky.
That's an incredible image. Just when you say you expose, you're exposing the negative, you're exposing it to light in your darkroom.
Yes. Now, originally, it's made with a contact negative, the same size as the image. So this paper is 18 by 24 inches, so you can get an idea how big the negative is.
Yeah.
So, and they were originally then exposed in a little printing frame. I'll show you what they looked like. This is an old-fashioned printing frame, if you can see, where
yes.
you would put the negative in it from the back. You'd open it up like this, and you put the negative in, and then you'd expose it to sunlight. But there's one problem. Depending on sunlight in the UK, is not a very good idea. So I actually use an ultraviolet light source, because you can calibrate it. You can come up with the same result every time. You're not reliant on the sun shining, so it's much better. So I don't mind using modern techniques at all where applicable.
Yes, I've tried doing that with doing solar etching and creating negatives from my images and using the sun solar, and it was one of the most frustrating weeks of my life, I think. Yeah. And yeah. I created a frame a bit like what you had there with I used a clip frame and clips to try and hold, because you had to hold it tight in front of the sun, so that, as you say, the paper and the negative are in contact with each other.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Speaking of sunlight, I'll show you another interesting process that I do, which these are known as, they're called chlorophyll prints, where you actually print. So that's just some graffiti printed on a big leaf, and you put the negative over the leaf under glass and leave it in the sun for an indeterminate amount of time, and you end up with that.
Do you have to put some sort of light sensitive emulsion on the leaf?
No, it's just sunlight and just photosynthesis, and see. So that's a crowd.
That is incredible.
That's a crowd scene printed on a leaf. So that's actually the Siena Palio, a crowd scene at the Siena Palio.
And how long did it take before you started to see the image arrive?
Well, normally in this climate, it normally is a week or two. It really depends how strong the sunlight is. The difficulty is that you can't check it as you're going along, because once you unclip the frame, the image is out of registration. You can never get it back in the same place. So you have to just kind of pray and hope
exactly.
Hope that your instincts are right, that sort of calculate how much sun there was and things like that.
Would you do a test leaf? I could see myself doing a test leaf and then the main leaf.
I do that, but even then, because you don't know what the weather's going to be the following day, so you don't know. I'm going to test the leaf to check that I've got the negative right. But the more you do them, the more you get a feel for how much time is required.
So did you create those leaves with natural light, or did you use your UV in your studio?
No, just sunlight.
Just sunlight on those leaves.
And I've had them get ruined. I leave them outside and I forget to bring them in at night, and then it rains and they get wrecked. And what I'll say is I'm trying to bring back the magic of photography, and the way you bring back the magic of photography is make it as difficult, complex, unpredictable as possible.
Absolutely.
That's the secret. Instead of just taking an image with your phone and pressing a button and getting a photograph. It's very different. That's the secret to getting magic.
Yeah, it's the unexpected, isn't it? And that was always the thing when you did analog photography, because it was in the camera and you never knew what you were going to get. You had to go through all that elaborate process of developing it, and you never knew what you were going to get.
Exactly. I think I mentioned to you last time about an app that, I mean, I've heard about it, I haven't seen it, but apparently you install this on your phone, you take a photograph with the phone, and it doesn't let you see the image for 2 weeks.
I love that idea.
It creates what it used to be, you know.
Yeah. So you've been using traditional photography methods the whole time. You haven't gone over onto using digital.
No. I use a digital camera mostly. I mean, sometimes I use analog. I mean, I'll show you a few of the different cameras I use.
Would you go back to just you, because you're saying you want to make it so scary? Would you go back to just using analog?
The trouble with analog is it's too expensive. It's too expensive. You know, digital. You know, you don't have to pay for all the development process. You know, so the amount of photographs I take, you know, I have something like 500,000 photos on my computer, and I would just be broke. You know, paying processing fees and things. So
that's kind of answering Polly's question, which is, are you using traditional wet methods of developing? But you're not, because you're actually making the image and the negatives.
And then I go backwards. So so I have a darkroom, and in the darkroom, it's a wet process. And say, for example, the gum bichromate. It takes maybe sometimes overnight to develop the image. You have to soak it in water for a very long time until the image comes out. So it's still a sort of wet darkroom. But one of the advantages is that the chemicals aren't so light sensitive, so you don't have to work in almost pitch black. You can work in just dim light, which is a lot easier.
Yes, yeah, because you're not actually processing the film. That's the bit that you're not doing.
That's the bit that I'm not doing, is I don't have to process the film. So I can just make the negatives directly from my digital file. That saves a big step. I mean, I don't do a lot of photo manipulation on Photoshop. People often think I've done a lot of work in Photoshop manipulating these things, but I don't. I try to use the image as it comes out, because I really like the serendipity, and I like things going wrong, making new discoveries, and I find, you know, pure digital photography a little bit soulless, and you've got to have the unpredictability and the chance moment, I think.
And that's what is embedded into your practice, which is why you have discovered and you're exploring and pushing the boundaries of these other processes, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You were about to show us your first camera, weren't you?
Yeah, we were talking about cameras. So this is my first camera. I still have it.
And who gave you your first camera?
My dad.
Do you still use that camera? Is it still working?
It still works, but I haven't used it for many years. I only just discovered it a few years ago, and there was still some film inside of it. There was still an undeveloped roll of film, which I got developed, which was some pictures of me and my siblings on vacation in the mountains.
That's so fabulous, isn't it? So, yeah, that is such a gift, isn't it? That's just such a gift. So can you show us more of your artwork? Because I love your artwork, and we have it currently on exhibition. The hotel is open, people. You can go and see it. It's at Ballantyne's in Hastings. We do currently have some artwork of David's on the walls. It's been closed up and locked down. It was locked down. Your artwork was locked down in the hotel.
It saved me space.
Yeah. Didn't have to store it because it was locked down in the hotel. But actually, you can actually go and see it now, because the Valentine's is opening this week, and although you can't eat or do anything inside, you can go in and use the facilities and go into the gallery on request. You'd obviously have to wear masks and everything, but yeah, very privileged to have your artwork on show there. Griselda's just saying, what make of camera was that, before you show us the
Rolleiflex.
A Rolleiflex. My parents had one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Right, so you're going to show us some more.
I'm going to show you a lot of what I do is combining two different processes, either combining different processes or using different papers. I have so many different papers. I sometimes can't keep track of them, and I have a whole drawer that's just labeled mystery paper because I don't know where I bought it anymore. But what I wanted to show you, going back to this gum bichromate image of this lady at Carnivale, that's the gum bichromate image, and that's the same image as the cyanotype only.
And how much longer does it take to create the gum bichromate compared to the cyanotype?
Well, a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
This is a couple of weeks' work. You can only do one layer at a time, and then you have to let it dry.
Whereas the cyanotype is a one-step process, is it?
Yeah. And interesting, if you look closely, one of the things you can do when you're applying the chemicals, you can fiddle around with brush strokes and get interesting sort of effects by sort of fading out the brush as you apply the chemicals, as you can see here. So you can create a kind of background in a painterly way. It's quite interesting.
That is interesting. So what kind of brushes do you use to create that kind of background?
You have to use brushes that don't have any metal in them, because the chemicals react to the metal. So this is an example of a Japanese hake brush. It just has no metal.
Mm. I daren't ask, but where did you get that then?
Well, these you can get them at any art supply.
They're easy to get.
Yeah, they're easy to get. Yeah.
Not like the 1950s watercolor paper.
No, I'm not telling you anything.
You're not telling me, are you? I'm not going to be given that piece of
I have so many. I have so many different papers. But what I want to also show you is something else that can be done. This is the image that you saw when you looked when you showed the magazine.
Yes.
But with the gum bichromate process, you can use any color pigment you want, and you can end up with something completely different. So that's one example. There's another example.
And they have such a different atmosphere depending on the color, don't they?
Yeah, same image. And I have to be sure to not hold it upside down.
I was going to say that one's really different because it's upside down.
It's a slightly different color value there. Yeah. And then this is a slightly more orange pigment added to it. And it's not just one pigment, it's several layers. You're using a redder pigment, and then an oranger pigment, and then a more yellow pigment. And you see, or you can end up with that.
Which looks like something out of the from Africa, doesn't it? You know, yeah. The other ones you were showing us look like they're here in the UK, but that one looks like it's on the Sierra Nevada.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
So that's the beauty of this gum bichromate process. You have all these different pigments. I mean, I must have 100 different watercolor pigments, and I'm forever buying new ones. You know, exploring different color combinations. And
Polly's asking, are they natural or are they chemical-based pigments?
They're both. They're both. I mean, I try to use ones which are light fast, of course.
Yeah, which will therefore have an element of chemical.
Yeah.
In them.
Yeah, but I mean, I have. You can get This is my little tester card of testing all the different colors, and when I'm trying to match them up, I sort of look.
You keep a record.
I keep a record of what combinations work. Now what I want to show you is it's not just, as I say, it's not just the processes, but also the paper can make an enormous difference. And here's one example where I've used the first paper ever made, which is papyrus, and I printed on a sheet of papyrus.
Wow. And why did you pick that image to print on there?
Because it's an ancient face from Egypt, and I thought that papyrus would be appropriate.
So that's your original photograph that you took, or?
Yeah. Of a sarcophagus.
Uh-huh. And so that's just incredible. And having it on papyrus just adds something to it as well. It just adds some of the mystery and the story.
And I love what happens to the papyrus. It curls up like that as it dries. So it's kind of like finding Dead Sea Scrolls or something.
Your brother's watching. He says you're a genius.
Well, you would say that.
We think you're slightly biased, William,
but something else. I really
I do agree as well.
I like using gold leaf a lot. And in this case, I printed the first image, just a normal black and white print on a Japanese paper.
Oh, I love the sound of that. That's quite thin, that paper, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very thin. It's about, I think they call it 30 GSM. It's really thin paper. It's hard to use. You know, the light will shine right through it if I put a strong light behind it. So I started with that, and then applied gold and silver leaf at the back, and you end up with this.
Wow. You just have no idea really what you're looking at, do you? It looks like an owl coming out of the tree.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden you can, with the gold in the back, you get more of a perspective of the owl. But before, without the gold, you really were struggling to make. My brain was trying to make sense of what I was looking at. Yeah. That's incredible.
I mean,
and the gold that you put on the back. So is that gold leaf that you've put on the back?
It's proper gold leaf. Yeah.
Genuine gold.
Yeah, and genuine silver. And because this Japanese paper is so thin and translucent, it just shines through.
How would you frame that? Because you're going to lose the beauty of that if you frame it conventionally, because you're going to lose the light coming through. Well,
it's interesting you asked that question, because I was tempted with one of these to use one of these kind of frames like they have in estate agents, where they have transparencies and they have light coming through from behind. I was tempted to try that, actually.
I think thinking about it like a piece of stained glass almost.
Yeah.
Maybe I know Stephanie puts her work, mounts her work onto mirror first to retain that luminosity behind it.
Yeah, I have heard of that process. I haven't tried it yet, but I do know about it.
It'd be interesting if Bev's watching, who's our framer, if she's got some comments on framing a piece of work like that, because you don't want to lose the effect of that translucency and the light coming through. No.
You have to be very careful that you have, if you can frame it conventionally, you have to be careful that you have a strong white background behind it. Otherwise, it gets killed.
Do you frame most of your work yourself?
No, I don't. And I don't frame any of it myself.
Do you design do you design? I don't mean do you actually physically frame it. Sorry, I'll reframe my question. Do you actually decide how a piece of work is going to be framed before you present it?
Well, I mean, both. You know, I mean, I'm quite happy if a client, uses their own personal taste, as long as it's good taste.
Bev saying you could frame it by glazing it front and back.
Yeah, I've tried that actually. It did work. You just have to have the right kind of hanging system to use
yes.
it. But there are a lot of different options. I mean, the thing about, as I say, all these processes that I work on, there are so many different alternatives, and it all gets so complicated and confusing. It makes my life so difficult, which is just great. It's just what I wanted.
You're like me, fear of the known. Don't like the known. Carol's just asking, so how do the pigments become photographic quality?
Well, the gum bichromate process, the way it works, the pigments are mixed with gum arabic and gum bichromate, and what happens when they're exposed? So this is the science of it. When the image is exposed to ultraviolet light, the gum arabic and the pigments harden according to how much light has reached the image, and then you soak it in water, and the part of the image that's got the most light exposure, it remains the hardest and doesn't wash off very much, and the part that's the darkest part of the negative, that's had very little light, washes away quite quickly. So that's what happens.
Yeah,
basically.
That's good.
I've explained. It is a complex process. I mean, you feel free to ask me, anybody, again, and I'll try to explain it. Again,
yeah, I think it is a very complicated process. There's not many people working in this medium in the way that you do it, which is why it's lovely to hear you talking about it. She was also saying she had no idea you can print photographs onto any other papers, but that you can, if you're using light sensitive materials, you can print onto anything.
Yeah,
you have to use a light sensitive gel or gum or material to make it light sensitive.
Sure, you can print onto glass and all kinds of things. I mean, I even saw an image once where a guy took a picture of his family having breakfast and printed the photograph on a piece of toast.
Oh, I saw that. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, so so anything is possible. I mean, I wouldn't want to eat the toast afterwards. It wouldn't be very good for you, but
Yeah, no, I don't think so, with all those chemicals on it. No, the guys are really fascinated in the whole framing thing now, and it's like, well, you could use a light box. I was thinking that as well. You could use a light box.
Yeah,
that would look awesome.
Something to experiment with. There's so many different ways to go with this.
Yeah. So you've shown us quite a lot of the Venice images and then the tree one. Can you show us a selection of your other artwork, some other subjects and
Yes. I use this is Waterloo Station, and I use a lot of slow shutter speed photographs and things like this, so you get the trail of the person of the person moving. So for example, that yellow was actually a guy pushing a cart with a little light on top of it, and all you ended up with was just this strange kind of moon trail on it.
So how slow a shutter speed was that to get that image?
I don't remember, but it was probably about a 30th of a second or something like that. And sometimes I do exposures that might be 15 seconds long. I don't recall with this exact image, but you have to hold it really steady and hope everything works out okay. But you get these wonderful kind of ghostly trails and rather extraordinary patterns, and you don't even know exactly what you're looking at sometimes. I mean, all these things are actually people moving around.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You've The multi-layer ones you do, the multi-exposure ones, do you do those in the camera?
Yes, I don't do them in Photoshop. I mean, this is an example of a multi-exposure. This is going back to Venice, which is, I love getting the sort of texture, of all the wonderful windows and things like that.
So talk us through how you would create an image like that.
Well, it's a multiple exposure technique, which I'm not going to tell you everything that I've done, but it was discovered by accident.
You're not revealing all your secrets.
No.
No, I love those, the Venice ones, especially the nighttime ones. They're just amazing.
I do a lot of photography in low light because I've often, what I say is I like to capture not the reflected light, but the light within the image. So the light that's sort of diffusing out of what you're looking at, rather than a stark photographic image just reflected back at you. I like to get the mood of darkness and the mystery of all that. And Venice especially lends itself to that. You're just wandering around late at night.
When did you first go to Venice and photograph?
I think it was about five years ago. And then I just kept going back. I made friends, and I had an exhibition there, and I made friends with the people who put on the exhibition. And then I joined a rowing club, and then I made more friends. And then I, stopped staying at Airbnb, rented an apartment. And I was, until lockdown, I was going there maybe 10 days a month. And I'd go there more if I could afford it, if I could do it.
But you haven't been there for a while.
I haven't been able to go back since September.
Mm-hmm. So what imagery is stimulating you at the moment then with making the work right now?
What's been interesting is during lockdown, when I couldn't go to Venice, I was worried. I thought, I'm going to lose my muse. Venice is my muse. Every artist is worried about losing their muse. And what I realized is that I just keep my camera with me. And your muse is your own sensibilities. It's who you are. It comes from within you. You drive past a scene, and suddenly you see something in that scene that just catches your imagination. And it's still you, and it's still your style. And so, it's always there. You don't have to always take the images of Venice or always the same image. It's just got to be what comes from inside of you.
Isn't that so empowering when suddenly you realize that someone can't take it away from you because it is you?
That's been the real lesson of lockdown for me. I was really so worried about that. I thought, I spend so much time photographing Venice. What am I going to photograph? And, I've realized everything,
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you photograph, because as an artist, you are the artist.
Yeah, and even myself I can take pictures of now.
Yeah, exactly. You're not alone in that fear of losing your muse or losing the artwork as you're even working on it. That's a normal sensation. But then, as you say, that's the excitement, isn't it? Because when you lose it, then there's an opportunity for something amazing to happen. Yeah,
exactly. And I go down so many paths, I'll suddenly find something at the seaside or something like that just captures my imagination, and then I'll just keep going back and trying to get what's in my head and trying to capture it. And just keep going back, and you go down so many different paths. It's great, actually. It's great.
So what have you been working on in this last lockdown? What images particularly are coming out?
I've been doing a lot of images at Camber.
Yeah.
The Camber Sands, because I've been going there quite a lot. Actually, one time I went there, the police were there waiting and turning people away, and I said, "Oh, how far have you come from?" I said, "Cranbrook." "Well, that's too far. You're going to have to go home." I said, well, actually, I'm a photographer working on a series of seaside things. Oh, okay. Well, you can come through. And so I set up my tripod, and a dog came along and peed all over my tripod.
There's a lot of dogs at Canberra. What can I say? I think if you look at Venice and then you look at Canberra, they're so different, but then they're so similar.
It's the sea. It's the sea, and it's
the water and the people, isn't it?
The quality, yeah, the people, the quality of life. I love Canberra. I really love it in the summer when it turns into something completely different as well. You know, when it gets packed out with everybody in their little windbreaks, things like that. It's just great then.
Yeah, lots of potential for photographing.
Yeah. So I've been going there a lot. You know, as much as I dare. You know.
I think you're allowed to go now, David. It's okay.
Yeah, I know.
We're in the bit of out. And if you're working, as they correctly said, if you're working, you are allowed to go as well. So that's okay.
Well, and I was, so I felt quite okay. And anyway, I was just by myself. I wasn't with anybody or anything. So.
Yeah, but we all have to kind of like do it together, don't we? It's a collective energy to make this thing work, so we can all live our lives again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We have another question. So from D, and it says, once dry, is a layer of gum bichromate watercolor water insoluble? So that the next layer or even straight watercolor could be applied without lifting the previous layer. Oh,
yes, it can. It dries quite hard, and then you brush on the next layer, and it doesn't lift the layer below. That's right. But it's not impermeable to water, so you have to be careful.
Yes, because you said you lay it in the water so that the dark areas lift and the light areas stay behind.
And you can do very interesting things with gum bichromate as well, as you can encourage the washing away process. So you can brush away areas, things like that. So it's a really painterly process. If you find one area too dark, you just take a soft brush and brush it away, or spray it with a bit of water pressure, and you can lighten up a section, or you can create a pattern or a texture. So it's a really, I mean, the possibilities are enormous, but it's a really steep learning curve, I can tell you.
And I think the way your work looks is fascinating in that you have to really look to see, is that a photograph or is that a painting? It does lift those questions, definitely.
Yeah, I'll show you something else, just a second.
I think it's interesting what Carol said there. It's trust in yourself. Do you know what? That's life-changing. Once you understand you are the artist and you can trust yourself, it's okay. Yeah, exactly.
It was a real epiphany for me. I felt so much better.
Trust yourself and trust in the universe. It'll all be okay. It will all work out.
Yeah, well, that's a big statement. I trust in the universe.
Yeah, it is, but you have to, because otherwise, well, we know that all these things, the only guaranteed thing we have in life is change, and these things will keep coming, and we just have to keep moving forward.
Yeah. It's so much I've learned now is about your mental attitude. It's really important.
Yeah, your mindset is all.
Yeah.
You're going to show us a piece of work.
I'll show you. Gum bichromate, you can also just use a single color, and this is just using a single color.
And again, you've used the brush set to create that. And
that is just one layer. So you can do it that way and get away with doing one layer, but it often doesn't work, but when it works, it's really satisfying. So it is possible.
And that's Canberra, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Canberra also.
Phew.
Right.
I got that one right. So you've got a couple more pictures on your easel you could show us.
On the easel, I think in the browser.
Or in the browser. I love the soft edges as well. Very, very similar, that edging, to what we saw yesterday with Philippa Edgerton. with the disrupted edges. I really love that you can, it gives it that extra quality of being real art. You're made by, touched by the human hand.
Yeah, speaking along what you're saying, so this is an example of what you can do is you can just apply the chemicals selectively to only one part of the image, just.
These would make amazing films, Annie. If you're watching, you are watching.
So you see all the brush strokes.
Yeah.
And you're working a bit blind when you're applying this. So you don't really know exactly how much of the image you're getting. But when it works, it's very nice. But again, that's just showing how painterly it is. What you can do with it, and you can't do this with conventional photo processes. Yes, you can do it in Photoshop, but it's not the same.
Well, you know that the hand of the actual hand of the artist has applied that chemical on there to create those brush strokes, and which is what gives it the integrity of being an original in that way.
And then the other thing you can do.
I can't see you nodding, Annie. No, but
you can use paper with a deckled edge and take it right up to the edge.
So that's Carnivale with their fireworks.
It's called Redentore, which is another festival. There are so many festivals in Venice. Any excuse.
Any excuse for some fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I belong to a rowing club, and we just rowed down the Grand Canal in our boats and just parked ourselves in the lagoon and just had ringside seats. It was fabulous.
It almost looks like people looking out through those fireworks. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So if people want to see more of David's work, we've shown you his website where you can go and look at his work, and it's on exhibition at in the gallery at the Ballantine Spa Hotel in Hastings. Where else can they find your work, David?
Well, it's online. It's on exhibit at the Affordable Art Fair, online Affordable Art Fair at the moment. So you can see quite a lot of my work there. It's with a gallery called Mint Arts Gallery, MINTART Gallery. So if you go to the Affordable Art Fair online site, you'll see it.
And anywhere else do you show you have an Instagram?
I have an Instagram, yeah, david.winston.photography.
And can people DM you and contact you?
Yeah, they can. Sometimes I put stuff on Instagram, every day or so, and sometimes I don't do it for weeks. It just depends how busy I've been, really,
Yeah, the same as the rest of us. That's true to life. So what does the future hold for David Winston? What's your aspirations?
My aspiration is to get out of the musical instruments altogether. My back's killing me. I've had enough of bending over a workbench and all those things, and just to devote myself full time to my photography. I'm getting there. I'm devoting more and more time to it, and and I have a lot of projects that I want to do. There's still an awful lot to be done, and there's mistakes to be made and discoveries to be made as a result of the mistakes.
Yeah, and it's setting your intention. You've set your intention here on the screen to stop doing the musical instruments and to move forward into just doing your art. And we were listening to Mark Austin on Monday, who said he set his intention at age 40 to stop working in the civil engineering corporate world and to be a full-time artist by 50. And he says he's nearly there. He's really, he wrote it down on a piece of paper. He made notes for himself, and he really, I'm going to follow my passion. And actually, Vincent's an amazing example of that as well, because Vincent's been setting his intention. And over the last 10 years, I've seen Vincent really transition across into being, spending much more of his time being a full-time artist. So it is just you have to be a little bit selfish, don't you?
Yeah, it's challenging. One of the best lines I remember once was I was at a dinner party once, and you often say to somebody, "What do you do?" And the guy's answer was, "I used to be a monk," and that was really true.
Was it Jay Shetty? Was it?
No.
I love his book. I think like a monk, and he was a monk, and I think reading his book was quite transformative, and I would recommend it to anyone, actually. Yeah. The way the monk lives is an incredible, just like some of the, yesterday's yesterday, you don't have to carry it with you into the future, leave it behind. And just some of that philosophy is just liberating. As you say, it's all in our choices. We have choices.
Yeah, we do. We do have choices, and it's up to us in the end.
It is up to us in the end. Thank you so much, David.
My pleasure. Nice to have the chance to share some of this.
It's amazing. I always love listening to you talk about your work, and your work is stunning. And I really implore people to go and look at it on the Affordable Art, but come and see it in the flesh down in Hastings, because it is stunning work. And I feel very privileged to be exhibiting your work. It's always a joy.
Thank you.
And we will hopefully see you in person when we're allowed, when we'll have some sort of opening. We tried to do an opening. I can't even remember now. Was it like October? We tried to do an opening, and then they locked us down, and then we tried to do another one. And
I think it was October, yeah.
Yeah, so we've tried to do this exhibition, and they keep locking us down. So I'm hoping that when we open up properly in May, we'll be able to do a proper opening event, and everyone will be able to come along and see the work. So yeah, I really look forward to doing live events again. But we'll always be doing some sort of hybrid, because why not? Why wouldn't we? This is just the most amazing way for many people to meet you and to see what you do. So I think hybrid is the future, but we definitely will not be forsaking live events. So
there's nothing to equal face-to-face communication with people, in the end of the day.
Exactly. I know. I can't wait either, Bev. It's going to be amazing to have the opportunity to do some live and some digital, and do it all, embed everything that we've learned now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing a glass of champagne with you, David.
Me too.
And we'll say goodnight to everyone. And tomorrow we've got Sophie Douglas. Thank our lovely Sophie. And she's going to be demonstrating. So that's going to be exciting. I can't wait. So don't make sure you make a date in your diary, 6 o'clock tomorrow. And we'll see you all again then. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
They loved it.